Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to talk Codexes, Indexes, the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook, and whether new Games Workshop is approaching these things correctly, or whether they might be doing a bit of mix and match between new and old style, and it's not working out so great. So, what has spurred this on is, I was reading through some of the stuff for the Space Marines Codex, and there were a couple of things in there that immediately made me, confused, I think is probably the polite way to put it. Really, I was just fucking baffled. I was like, what? Why have you done that? What is that change about exactly? And then I sought clarification, as one does on the internet, and found that things weren't quite as bad as I thought, but in another way weren't great either. So, the thing that really got me concerned was the fact that Kusaro Khan, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Kusaro, the dude on the bike, White Scars dude, Khan, him. He's got no bike. In the Codex, he has no bike. There is no bike. And the reason for this is that Games Workshop do not do a Khan model on bike. He's got his nice sort of normal walking around model, but he does not have a model where he's on the thing that White Scars use the most. Which is weird. You'd have thought at some point they would have actually done that, but no, he doesn't have that. And I immediately thought to myself, that's kind of bullshit. Why would you take away the ability to use that character on a bike? He's White Scars. What the fuck is this? But no, it's actually okay. You can still use Khan on bike if you use his entry in the index. So we've already reached a point where, for one character at least, you've got to have two books. Now, I don't know a huge number of White Scars players, but at least one of the, well, I say one of the two, the half of the two White Scars players that I do know, he uses Khan on bike, which seems sensible. From what I know of White Scars, he's not a bad character, and he's White Scars, he's supposed to be on a bike. So already, they are going to have their Codex, and they're going to have their Index, because the Codex doesn't have rules for Khan on bike, whereas the Index does. But although Khan on bike isn't in the Codex, it's still a legal character, because you can use the Index rules instead. That immediately, to me, screams ripe for abuse. It's also frustratingly confusing, especially if to a new player. Like, I could see a new player going, oh, these White Scars guys are really cool. I really like these guys. Start an army. And then when they come to actually, you know, getting a bit into it and they decide that they're going to have Khan, there's just confusion. It's like, well, can I use those rules? Can I not use those rules? I don't understand why that's fine. Now, of course, Games Workshop clarified. Yeah, you can. But not everyone is going to go looking for that clarification, and not everyone knows that that clarification has already taken place. It's a very similar situation with Honor Guard. In the Codex, it looks like Honor Guard can only take power axes, which is, again, weird. Don't really understand why that is the case, but it's okay. It's okay, because as pointed out, you can use the entry out of the index. But that's, again, the same situation. That is two books that you require. That's not great. That is not great at all. That is old Games Workshop. That's not new Games Workshop. New Games Workshop is supposed to be about streamline. It's supposed to be about response. It's supposed to be... Oh, I'm not the camera. It's supposed to be about, you know, ease of use. You buy a book, that's what you need. If any new units come out, they come out with the rules in the box. You've got your Codex, you're good to go, you're set. Unless you've got older Honor Guard without power axes, in which case you're going to have to use a different book for that. Or if you're using Khan on bike, you need a different book for that. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. It's just... I can understand, like, the way they've gone with Khan, in fairness. They are steering away from listing heroes that don't have models. That's fair enough, because that's confusing by itself. If you're a newer player, you see an HQ you like is a named character, you want that named character, and then find that there's no model for him, you're kind of a bit stuck. But on the other hand, introducing an extra element of confusion whereby you can use it, but only if you don't use that book, you use a different book, that's not great. Similar situation with the rulebook. Now, the rulebook, this is always going to happen, especially with rulebooks. I'll be fair to them in that sense. Releasing 8th without a rulebook would have been weird. I don't know whether I would have minded if we got all of the rules for free. But we're already in a situation where there's been multiple FAQs, there's been multiple fixes, there's been changes to things like flyer lists, and that's great. That is honestly good. I'm not complaining about that. The change is not the problem. The fact that Games Workshop is reacting to stuff that they're seeing, they're reacting to what people are saying, they are actively attempting to clarify rules, to change rules, and to limit kind of what could be seen as spam or cheese or whatever as it occurs out of the new indexes and then out of the new codexes. I'm not really going to complain about that. I think that's not a bad way to go at all. It is very new Games Workshop to actually communicate with your player base. Who'd have thought that we would actually be in a situation where that happened with Games Workshop? But it's already presenting a similar problem, whereby you've got this massive rulebook, you've got all of these rules, and some of them are different. Some of them are getting changed, some of them are being switched out, some of them are having little tweaks made to them, some of them the wording is being altered, so it means something slightly different. And again, I'm not going to complain about fixing the game as you go, because one of the biggest problems of any tabletop game is, or in fact any game in general, if there's a problem with something and the company doesn't fix it, the maker doesn't fix it, they're just like, well, that's like that now, fuck it. That is a problem that Games Workshop has had in the past, and it's been a serious problem, and I'm not going to hate on them for attempting to fix that. But we do have this weird situation now where new Games Workshop is doing great work, but there's still elements of old Games Workshop that we are sort of being not forced into using, but they don't match. You know, having a printed codex is fine, and the rules for the units being in that codex is fine, but that doesn't really match updates and clarifications. It never has. The thing is that I was hoping with the arrival of 8th edition and, you know, the proper full-on off we go of New Games Workshop, that maybe we might have seen something a little bit different, a slightly different approach. Maybe that codexes would become more of a collector's item than anything else. You know, they have all the lore, they've got the painting stuff, they've got the nice spreads of the armies inside, and the rules are just digital. Now, I didn't expect that to happen. I thought it'd be nice if it did, but I at no point thought that it would, so I wasn't disappointed when it didn't. But I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing, and it's the same for the rulebook. Again, great as a collector's item, but the more you balance the game, the more you change rules, you switch rules about, you start rewording stuff, the more complex, the less comprehensive, and the less streamlined everything becomes. If you had, for instance, a maybe not free, but like a phone version and a tablet version, a desktop version of the rulebook and the codexes that cost like a couple of quid, and those were updated to reflect changes that have been FAQ'd or errated or whatever, that would be infinitely better, in my mind, than the system that we have now, whereby we have these clunky old books, and yet we also have this really good team who are actually trying to balance the game as they go. It's a weird one, to be honest. It's kind of... I don't really understand... Well, no. I was going to say I don't understand the thinking behind it. I do understand the thinking about it. We do have new Games Workshop. They are better than they were before, but they still want to make money. And they make money off codexes. They make money off rulebooks. That's how that works. But at the same time, you would kind of hope that they would realise that they're not compatible. They're not 100% compatible. Printed material and digital distribution of like new rules or rule alterations don't mix. It means that you've got to have some way of all your customers knowing that you've changed something, which not all of them will. And there'll be some that do know that something's been changed and some that don't. And then those two people will come to have a fight against each other, and one of them will be trying to do one thing and the other one will say, no, you can't do that, Games Workshop said so. Oh, where did they say so? If you look in the book it says this. Yeah, but the book is out of date, because if you go to their Facebook page it says that. If it was all digital and it just updated the actual material that you had on your phone, on your iPad, on your tablet, on your whatever, that would be infinitely better. I want to see codexes and rulebooks as collector's editions. Just, not even collector's editions, but just a collector's thing, whereby if you want it, you can have it. The rules in there are going to be non-applicable after a while. You get a free copy of the digital rulebook or the digital codex when you buy the physical copy, and you're getting it for, like, well, you're getting it for the fancy pictures and the text and the flavour. That's all you're getting it for. The rules in it are really there for the sake of completeness, as opposed to being there for you to actually reference. The real rules are on your phone. Even that's too complicated thinking about it. Just strip out the rules from the codex and the rulebook. Just have it so that they are the background fluff, the source material, and then just do digital. Or don't keep updating. It doesn't work with both. I know that's the way it's been done for ages, but we're in a new era here. We're in a new... Good grief, it's gone light. We're in a new era. We're in a new time. Games Workshop is supposed to be all about communication, and this isn't clear communication. This is sporadic, weird. This thing says one thing, this thing says another thing, communication. That doesn't work. What do you reckon, though? That's the question I ask at the end of every one of these videos, by the way. And I do want you to tell me what you think. Do you think this is working? Are you not bothered if the codex entries change online, or would you prefer it all to be... Well, would you prefer it to all be digital and updated as they go? Do you actually prefer just having a paper rulebook and a paper codex and just writing down rule changes, or do you think that's a bit clunky and it doesn't really match what they seem to be going for these days? Let me know in the comments below, because I always read them. And on that note, I saw a comment. It was a couple of days ago on the video about the new Reavers, where I just didn't like the helmets, which I've changed my opinion on now. But at the time, not a fan. Not a fan in any way, shape or form. I hated them. And the comment said something along the lines of, and I'm removing a lot of swearing and a couple of insults, why do you expect us to agree with you? With, you know, more profanity. And it got me thinking that it's a little bit, not disappointing, but I've only started doing Warhammer 40k videos consistently fairly recently, which means that the established audience that I already had know something about me that perhaps some of you newer guys don't know, which is that I don't expect you to agree with me. I've never expected you to agree with me. When I make these videos where I share opinions, where we talk about this stuff, that's why I'm doing it. To talk about this stuff. This isn't some sort of dictatorship whereby I declare what I think and from now on that's how you think as well. That's bullshit and I don't like that. When I make these videos and when I share my opinions, it's not because I expect you to agree with me. It's because I want to have a conversation about it. I want to start the discussion. And then when I say, let me know what you think in the comments below, I'm not saying that for the sheer hell of it. I'm saying it because I will go back and read the comments on the video. Because you will have a different perspective to me. You will have thought of something that I haven't. You will have noticed something that I didn't pick up on. Or you might just disagree with me on principle, which again is absolutely fine. That's what these videos are for. They're just for... They're for discussion. They're for talking. Everything in 40k is massively subjective. Even when it comes down to things like rules, if you have 99 people who say that that is a quality change to a rule, there'll be one person going, no, I don't like that, I preferred it the way it was before, and that's fine. And that's kind of the point. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to see. I want to have an actual conversation with you, whereby I say what I think, you say what you think, I read all of that stuff, and when I see something that points out something I've missed, or when someone makes a compelling argument against what I've said, then that's really good, because sometimes it will in fact completely change my opinion. A good example of that is the Imperial Fist chapter tactics that I was just like, meh. I didn't hate them, but I didn't think they were particularly exciting. And then someone pointed out that, well, no, actually ignoring cover is really not that bad. And when I thought about it again, I was so underwhelmed by one aspect of it that I completely ignored the actual strength of the other aspect of these chapter tactics. Thank you for pointing that out. That's what this is for. That's what this is about. So, when I say let me know in the comments below, I'm not doing it as some other people might do it. I'm not doing it as just the closing thing of leave a comment, like, subscribe, tell your friends, all of that shit. That comes after. The let me know in the comments below is said because I want you to tell me what you think in the comments below so I can read it, so that I have a perspective that is not just my own. Anyway, I only meant that to take about 30 seconds and that went on for like 5 minutes. Thank you very much for watching. There's the usual array of nonsense and bullshit all over the screen, and Patreon, subscribe, videos, all of that shit. I'll see you for the next one. Thank you very much again. Toodaloo.